What would you say is the number one way that art has changed your life?
Ah, number one.
Or
My
you can
whole
give
life has changed. Have you seen my life? I was watching the game and I painted my first portrait because the only thing I knew how to do was really draw faces. So I was like, I have this paint, let me just use it. And I didn't even have a brush. I think I had like a palette knife,
Oh,
and I
wow.
kind of just made a face out of it and I posted on social media, and people were like, Benny, you paint? I was like, I don't know, this thing, and people were like, oh, that's sick. So I was like, okay, so I.
Hi, Benny. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to How Did You Get Here with Verastic.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is such a pleasure having you and seeing this smile again. It's been so long.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
almost a
yeah.
decade. Almost a
Yeah,
decade.
oh my God.
I
Don't
know.
say that then our age without showing. Don't say that. Okay, so the very first question I want to ask you is when did you know that you were successful?
Hmm. I mean, success is subjective.
Yeah,
Right.
whatever it
That,
means to you.
that's what I've learned. Success is very subjective.
Hmm.
But I would say, when did I know when I was on the right track?
Okay.
I would say probably after the Roots collaboration. I think
Okay.
that was because at that point there had been at past the 5 year mark of being in
Hmm.
an entirely new career,
Hmm.
learning new things, and there have been a lot of ups and downs in those 5 years. And when that happened, I was like, oh wow, okay, yeah, this is it. And I think from that
Yeah.
point, it was just up from there, and it's just been adding up. And I think that's
Uh-huh.
the beauty of it. Yeah. So I'll say that's when I knew at that point. Yes.
You gave yourself a little pat on the shoulder, like, all right,
That's
Benny.
right. I was like, oh, all this hard work is actually, it paid off. It's paying off. So,
Right.
and it's still paying off to today.
Yes.
But success. Now, what I realized, when I hit that was, I did that by myself. That
Hmm.
was a deal, and that was a initiated, arranged, negotiated everything through, you know, just me and the
Yeah.
organization. So from the very start to finish, launching the product, having that product sold out and in the hands of so many people, including celebrities like
Yeah.
Alicia Keys,
I
it
know.
was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it showed me that the sky is the limit. That you can accomplish
Right.
whatever you put your mind
Right.
to, and you don't just need to be an artist. You're creative,
Mm-hmm.
and God has given you these hands and the intellect and the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding to navigate, create, and
Right.
bring things to life. So yeah, from that point, uh, yeah, to me, that's crazy success.
We're
That's
like
amazing.
Benny Bang, Benny Bang, you have arrived.
Somebody,
Okay.
but to somebody else, it might not be right. But yeah, I think it's all up to how we individually define what success is to us. Some
Yeah.
people put in family and things like that. Some people really
Yeah.
just put it in their career. So to each his own. But for me, that would be where I would say I really noticed it.
Hmm. So you are based in Toronto and you are a contemporary self-taught artist, which we're going to talk about that because I'm like I see the work you do and I'm like self-taught. How is this is wild. Anyway, so you are based in Toronto, self-taught artist. Uh Look, in my notes, I literally wrote that is wild. I didn't even know I wrote that and I just said I just said it. That you see that I'm in the spirit. I meant it when I wrote it. Okay, so your features have primarily been Black women.
Yes.
Yeah, and I noticed the themes in your art. I noticed like life, self love, individuality, beauty, color. identity. You've collaborated. I saw the you did something with Old Navy too, IKEA. I watched your video um, with the IKEA studio. Yeah, that was very nice and colorful.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I saw that. And I even saw your mural on the wall, the one's called Life is Sweet. And I had to
Yes.
write down the street. It's called Queen Street and Logan Avenue in
William
Leslieville.
Logan. That's right. It's
Yes,
a
yes, I saw that big mural. Everything you do is really bold and really colorful. But before you got here, you were in a completely different career. Okay, let me even give you guys a little backstory. The last time I left Benny, we were doing a pod, not a pod. Well, it wasn't called pod. It was a live show. It was a live talk radio show on Giddy Lounge, and I was the host, and Benny was my producer. And I I knew Benny had his 9 to 5 job apart from being a producer, but art was not it. So imagine my shock. I'm like, wait, when did this happen? How long have I been out of the picture? And you just went from that to a completely new career that I didn't even know you had that in you. Because it wasn't like a conversation we had where maybe something like, Benny, what are you doing? Like, oh, I'm just painting. There was no such conversation, right? So
yeah.
how did you even go from what you were doing? What were you doing in your 9 to 5 job, by the way?
At that time, I was in marketing,
Okay.
advertising,
Okay.
but also more focused on business development. It was a
Okay.
small agency I was working for, and at the same time, I was working with Olumide Adewumi, who is the founder and
Yes.
creator of Lounge.
Yes.
I joined on board the team to work on Gay Lounge Radio, which is what
Yeah.
the venture that we met, and it was
Yes.
a beautiful product. Just
It was
too
such a
early, but I
beautiful.
think the work that Olumide, myself, and the team did over those years really contributed
Yeah.
to the success of Afro beats in the diaspora, and
Yeah.
we're very proud of that. So there was a lot of things that I was learning already in the field of marketing and advertising that we used to promote Giddy Lounge and Nigerian
Yes.
music.
Yeah.
That when I transitioned to art, it was very, I'll say, fluid. It was amazing. All those, and that's the thing. I always try to tell a lot of my proteges and mentees that I speak with is, no matter what job you do, wherever you find yourself, there's something you can learn from that
I
would
agree.
aid and help you in the future
I
in a
agree.
whole completely different field.
No
So
knowledge
how
is
did
lost.
we transition all those skills and all that knowledge? A lot of it was, we built Giddy Lounge from the bottom up. This is
Mhm.
before you had apps like Spotify or Apple
Right.
Music. We
Right.
had the African music streaming
Yeah.
platform that had live radio, had podcasts. We had over
Very.
7 shows with over 1,000 hours of podcast content. It was beautiful. I mean, your show, and I know we had the comedians. We had a lot of people on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oxy P,
Yeah.
a lot of his. So it's quite amazing and what we accomplished. But uh, that knowledge of just all that translated into what I do. Because
Mhm.
this is African music. This is blackness, black culture. When we talk about who we are as people, this is
Yeah.
our content. That's what we're listening to. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. So, that translated into the work of what I do and how I tell stories with my
Yeah.
art about identity,
Hmm.
um, about self regard, how we view ourselves, the love that we have for ourselves, and how we nurture that and grow that, because that allows us to live a richer existence, right? And it's all based on how we view things. How we see ourselves represented gives us a really good boost.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do with my work.
But how did you decide, I think I'm going to do this? Did you play around with it? I know I read that when I was doing my research about your where you grew up, Yeah, Regent Park.
Well, I didn't grow up in Regent
Where
Park.
you what is it? Your parents met there and lived there.
So this is the interesting story about
Yeah.
um, this whole thing is, as Nigerians, I'm Nigerian. I was born and
Mhm.
raised in Lagos, Nigeria.
Mhm.
My father's Nigerian. My mother is Bajan, from Barbados. For those that might be confused, and we don't ask our parents how they met.
Yeah.
What's the story? How did you guys meet? First of all, you're like, what happened? How did this thing happen? We never ask those questions in
Right.
Nigeria, and I think it's a respect
And
thing,
they
and it's
don't
understandable.
offer it freely either. It's not
That's
information
right.
they offer
That's right.
freely. Yeah.
So I've always been curious about how they met, and I had this whole story in my head. I'm not going to bore you guys with it. But anyway, I did find out that my parents met here, where I live currently in Regent
Hmm.
Park, downtown Toronto, in 1972.
Amazing.
An apartment building. My mom was throwing a party, and he helped her. She invited him over, and they became friends. And they packed up. He packed her to Nigeria, and that's where we were born and raised. But we never knew about this Regent Park story till I moved into Regent Park,
Hmm.
about 11 years ago. 11 years ago. And I invited my parents over, for dinner when we first moved in. And my dad just very nonchalantly was like, I met your mother over here in 1972. I was like,
Wow.
are you serious? He's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Very funny story. I spoke German and da da da. I was like, wow, that is
Right.
interesting. How I have now come back to this place where the story originally began. Now,
Hmm.
mind you, at that time I was still in marketing. I was still in corporate. So I hadn't started painting yet. So when I discovered my gift, it happened here.
Hmm.
Everything, it was almost like God brought me back to this specific part
Right.
of the world at this time to make magic, be great,
Right.
manifest with greatness, whatever that thing is. But it's interesting how our stories, when you actually look back,
Yeah.
you know, the story started here. They transplanted to Nigeria, where my father's from, where I now have a rich understanding and history of
Mm.
my background, my heritage, not just
Yes.
his side, my mother's side too. And coming back to where they originally met and making a career out of it, it's a wonderful feeling. Yeah.
That is it is an amazing story. And like you said, our parents don't tell us certain things. They don't volunteer the information, and we don't really think to ask
That's right.
them for some reason. Yeah, once I was with my parents, and my father casually told me, "Oh yeah, as a baby you almost died," and I was like, "What?" I never heard this
You know,
story before. He's like, "Yeah, you did know? No, no. How would I know?" He said it very casually, like I was supposed to be like, "Oh, cool." And
yeah.
he starts telling me all these stories, but our parents don't. They don't tell us stuff. And when they do, it's like I can imagine your dad telling you, "Yeah, I met your mother down the street." You're like, "What?" But now,
I mean, it was also like it was nothing. It was almost as
right,
if, like, didn't you know?
right,
Just the
right,
same way as that they mentioned, your father mentioned that to you. It's
right.
like, did you know? It's like, no. No one knew this story. I don't think anybody has ever heard
You
this
have to
story
remind
before.
him, like, I wasn't here when it happened. Remember, I
That's
wasn't
right.
here.
That's right. It's like, well, I think at that time I was 30 at the time, so it was like
Mhm.
30 years. No one mentioned anything about this place, huh? Yeah. But anyway, it was interesting. It was
Wow.
good to know. It was another layer of him that I got to know before he passed. That's for sure.
Right.
It was good.
Mm. Now, you started painting, according to my research, in February 2015. What prompted you to start painting then? How did you just pick up? Like, I can't draw a circle for the life of me. Like, so I'd never naturally just decide to start painting. Right. So, how did you just decide you painted something? You're like, this looks good. And you just kept on going. I know you had a mentor. And
Well, so I would say we should take it back a little bit to
okay.
Nigeria growing up.
Okay.
Um, I did grow up in a very creative family. My brother was a creative too. My
Mm-hmm.
father was a creative, was a photographer by trade. That's how he
I
actually
see.
was able to leave the country, go to school outside of Nigeria in the 70s, and create a trade for himself. Is by profession photographer.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that I had this creativeness in me. We used to paint on the walls and draw. We get flogged in Nigeria because we're you know messing up the house. Just
Right.
natural. But also, Nigeria, to a certain extent, the environment focuses heavily on academia than it
Yeah.
does on things like arts, which is
Yeah.
quite odd when you really look at the history of who we are. We're very creative people, very artistic people. But needless to say, you look at it as a vocation, not something you take seriously.
Yeah.
So I just kind of didn't care for it. I knew it was there. I would scribble and draw. And
Mm-hmm.
then as I got older, I started using that creativeness in other ways. So, for example, Giddy Lounge, all the visuals for Giddy Lounge, all the marketing for Giddy Lounge was done by me, right? So, all the flyers, all the banners, all the digital assets and creative assets were all created by me. And
Now
that's
that
what gave
you talk about it, I vaguely remember us talking, but I guess I didn't really put two and two together. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
always had your flyers
yeah,
ready for
yeah,
every
yeah.
single.
You did, you
Yeah,
did.
it wasn't sent to an agency to create. It wasn't a
Right.
graphic designer on board. No, it was me that was doing
Yeah,
that. That was part of
you
the creativeness of what we did. Yeah,
you
and
did.
and so that's what I did for businesses.
Mm,
So there is that creativeness I still in there. You see, but it wasn't
hmm.
being used. When my wife and I moved into our apartment, I remember we didn't have any art, and I was like, I need some art on my wall. So I did one. I found one fella sketch online. So I
Okay.
did use like acrylic markers, and I kind of drew fella's
Okay.
face, and I just hung it up. And I think her mom came
Mm-hmm.
to visit us,
Mm-hmm.
and she saw it. And she really liked it, and she was like, "Oh, it's really very nice what you did. Someone's just commenting on the stuff in your new apartment, so we're just happy." But we fast forward to December of 2014, which is now
Okay.
about a year later after we moved in, and she buys me acrylic paint for Christmas. This is
Oh,
my mother-in-law. Now, I'm a very humble, grateful individual. In Nigeria, when someone buys you something, they don't need to
mm,
buy anything. So you take it, you say thank you. You have home
right.
training. So I
Wow.
took it. I say, when I get, I'll use it. I'll paint something with it. Fast forward a few months later, February. This is like 2 months later, February 1st, 2015. I'll never forget. It was Super Bowl,
Okay.
and I was watching the game, and I painted my first portrait because the only thing I knew how to do was really draw faces. So I was like, I have this paint. Let me just use it. And I didn't even have a brush. I think I had like a palette knife,
Oh,
and I
wow.
kind of just made a face out of it, and I posted on social media, and people were like, Benny, you paint? I was like, I don't know. This thing was, and people were like, that's sick. So I was like, okay. So
You
I
kept
did
them
the
there.
second one.
Hey, wait, let me give
And
the people what they want.
but it wasn't like the same. It
Right.
was 75% better than the first one.
Mm,
So I was like, okay, third one, 150% times better. It just kept
wow.
getting better. And then I think the fourth painting I bought, that's when I bought like two brushes. And the whole thing changed. I was like, oh, wow, okay.
Wow.
And I just couldn't stop from there. But the time was perfect too, because at that time I had already done this, what I call the shed. Everyone kind of goes through it, where you shed unnecessary people that are in your circle.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them acquaintances, right? Or people you
Right.
just drag the energy, they're just bringing you down, not really
Yeah.
contributing to any type of to your well-being. So I did that shed already. So I think the timing was also right. I felt that was like God's way of like, you're ready.
Yeah.
Here's your gift, and now use it. That's kind of what it is. And a lot of people sometimes get their gifts and then don't know what to do with it. Sometimes they feel
Yeah.
overwhelmed, they're scared. Sometimes they're just lackadaisical and just don't care, lazy, right? Because they're not prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wonder it will still come back some other time, or might not. But for me, when I saw this, I was like, this is something. because I'm very aware, pay attention. I like to see signs, I
Mm,
aware of things that are going on in my life. I like to pay attention. I like to,
yeah.
because we ask for things, we say things we speak
Yeah,
things into. So
we
if I say
do.
I want my life to change, and you start to act in that way, your life will change. You have to be
Yeah.
ready for that. That was the change, and I just kept on going. And about a year later, I quit my job.
Wow. So, how did you start making money from when you started your painting?
Yeah, so this goes to that you kind of mentioned it earlier, the mentorship, right? The mentor.
Yeah, is it the Daniel spectrum? Because I read.
No,
Um,
so then I'll get to that one soon. But
okay.
when I realized that there was something here, I decided
Hmm.
that I need to know everything I need to know about the
Right.
arts industry.
Hmm.
How do they make money? What is the formula? Like systems. What are the processes? You know,
Systems and processes. I like.
I need to know everything because you can't just be going into a new profession blind or a
Yeah.
new. If you're going to look at it as something you want to, that is your new job, your new
Hmm.
career, right? You got to think about it. It's not just painting. You got to make money from this stuff. How do you make money? Who's
Yeah.
making money? How are they making
Yeah.
money? What are the So I'm asking around, and from what I can get online, it's very basic information, but nothing
Hmm.
too in. I don't even know what questions to ask at this point. So I'm thinking, what would I do if, in my formal career? First thing you do is look for a mentor, right? Someone that can guide you, someone that can show you the ropes, and that's the thing that we need, and that's what I noticed. So I found a gentleman by accident in a store I walked into, Mark Liam Smith. I
Was it
owe
really an
everything.
accident? Are there accidents?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not an accident. I was guided into that.
Right.
Yeah, because this guy was and has always been and still a phenomenal individual, and
Hmm.
God has blessed him fruitfully for what
Wow.
he's done, not just for me but for the other people. He just released a book last year. He has over 1 million followers on TikTok, 1 million
That's
subscribers. I think
wild.
almost 1 million subscribers on YouTube. He's a colorblind artist. Amazing story. A humble guy,
A
and these are the type of
colorblind
people.
artist.
Yeah, yeah, interesting stuff, man. Like Mark Liam Smith, check him out. So, he kind of gave me the whole, rundown of the industry. This is how it works. These are the different ways that, our artists are making money. The commercial route, the professional route, galleries,
Mhm.
commissions, consignments, all these, you start to learn all the lingo and all the, everything behind it. And I was ready. I was ready for it.
Mhm.
So I took that information and I just started building my own practice in a sense.
Okay.
Because I only probably at this point had like 6 or 7 paintings, so it's nothing. And at this point, I'm also experimenting. I'm still
Right.
finding my style. I'm playing around, and more like discovery phase, right? But how do you set up the systems that you need to succeed? So, how do you set up the business side to turn it from a creative practice into a creative business?
Hmm.
So that's what I did in that period of time.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was what I did in the first bit, and I found ways to show myself and make myself visible in the city. So art
Hmm.
fairs in the summertime are a huge part for emerging and upcoming artists. So I started appearing at all the different art fairs, and the first one I appeared at, I just took off again from there. It just
Wow.
exploded. I sold almost all the paintings that day,
Oh
and
wow.
even the fair lady came to me. She's like, "Wow, this is a huge success. Like we've never had this happen before." I was like, "Well, I've never happened before to me too, so I'm pretty excited about it." And from there, I built relationships with organizations. For example, the Raptors, the company that owns the Raptors, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and we worked with them on the Masai Injuries Foundation, Giants of Africa. We did a collaboration for Mandela Day. He does. So that began because I'm already in corporate, so it's easy to
Yeah.
shift in those two.
Yes.
Then I partnered with one of the developers in Regent Park. Um, and that relationship and partnership really blossomed into something really beautiful over the past 10 years, and they've been the
Mhm.
biggest funders of my career. So they own,
Oh,
as a single entity, they own the majority of my collection out there.
oh wow.
Yeah. So it's
That
about
is amazing.
eight condo properties in Toronto, that have, different pieces for me. So the idea is to show blackness. You know, you walk in the lobby,
Right.
you see a powerful painting of a beautiful black woman. You know,
Hmm.
that's more better than that. You
That is
know,
that is
um,
amazing.
or in the party rooms, or and it's so they, you know, Daniels does a very great job in supporting Toronto and Canadian artists, and showing you know, how dynamic the environment, the artistic or creative community is, and you
Mhm.
know, in Toronto. So it's been a blessing
Yeah.
meeting, building relationships with every single one of the people involved, including even the CEO of Daniels, Mitchell Cohen, has been a very good friend of just not mine but my family. So quite happy about it.
Mm. You talked about systems and processes,
Yes,
and obviously you are coming from corporate. You already know about systems and processes while working the corporate job. Do you think that creatives have a problem? Like they know how to be, or I should say we, because I'm counting myself as one of
that's
the people
right.
that have the issue. We know how to be creative, but not how to do the business of creativity, to have the systems and the processes. Because I know that for myself, I know how to write, I know how to talk, I know how to speak. I still struggle with the business side of all those things. So do you think, because I've also read from other creatives online, and they know how to be creative, but how to send an invoice, how to send a contract, how to market. Do you think that creatives generally struggle with processes and systems?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, I can tell you for a fact, I don't know the stats in the US because I have to find that information out, but in Canada, about 70 to 75% of creatives lack the business knowledge of running a creative practice or
That
creative.
is a big number.
It is. And that's why, you know, one of the biggest problems, challenges that artists face also is funding,
Yeah.
right? Is because there is a lack of the business side.
Mm.
So, of course, that's where the lack of funds come in. Because once you start to understand how you operate as a creative practice, you get
Yeah.
creative ways how you can make money that can fund projects, right? Because right now, I'll tell you, you know, most creatives, a lot of creatives, their funding comes from government, whether it's
Mm.
state, provincial, or it's federal funds, right?
Hmm.
On both sides, whether it's Canada or the US. But you know, that's great. Well, you can't rely on that.
Yeah.
People have relied on
No.
that for a long time.
That kind of
And
support will be capped. Can only go so far.
but also, you know, change of administrations, you know, changes things which people don't understand, right? Whether it's on your side or our side, right? So, you know, Trump coming in right now, there's going to be a lot of art, programming and grants are going to be slashed or even just completely
Yeah.
removed with what he's doing with the government, and you know, that's politics. You have no control over that.
Hmm.
Same here in Canada, where you know we're going for an election soon. Depending on who wins, the next person come in and say, "Hey, listen, you know,
Yeah.
we're tightening our belts and we're slashing that." What does that mean for
Hmm.
you? You're back working at Starbucks
Yeah.
because you need to pay rent and you need to survive. But how can you become sustainable as an artist? Right?
Hmm.
That has been one of the things that I noticed. My success in art is is not the norm, right? I credit it to a lot of things, but most importantly, I credit it to God because I know for a fact there was something just over moving me and over me,
Hmm.
right? I know that for a fact. I will never deny it. But even with business sense, there are people I know that with businesses are still struggling. So, but they're not struggling the same way people who lack that knowledge and lack the systems are. Right. So
Right.
what I've decided to do, one thing I notice is, you know, we need more mentors and we need to teach artists the business of art.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make money? And I'm talking about standard, foundational business development. You know, whenever I have any mentees new mentees I take in, I mentor about 7 to 8 individuals per year. And any of the first question I ask them is, actually 2 questions I ask them. First one is, when you get money, does it go into your private bank account or does it go into your business account? Have you separated those two? And that tells me the first thing I need to know about that individual. If they
Right.
don't have a business account or haven't registered a business, automatically tells me you definitely are not probably making as much money as you should be
Mm.
because it's already mucky. That's one. And then the other question is, what's your relationship like with your family and friends?
Really?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I really truly believe that to you resolve a lot of your own interfamily issues, it's very hard to be successful.
Hmm.
You'll
I
notice
didn't
that
think about that.
the moment you whatever like forgive your parents for whatever it is that you're angry about or whatever it is, I mean, you're going to notice your whole life change. That's another thing. So those are 2 questions. I don't want to get into that part here, but those are the 2 questions I ask people, right? And if you haven't, that's one thing I tell you: start to work on that because it's just a law of this universe. Some people call it religious, some people call it spiritual, but it's a law. Until you deal with that, it's going to hold you back.
Mm.
And you're going to have to do it at some point, whether it's, if it's not at level 1, it's going to be at level 6 or level 10. But at some
Mm.
point, you're going to deal with it. The question is, when do you want to deal with it? So you might as well start at the beginning. So those two, get your money straight, separate those two things, and get your life straight if you have any baggage that might be holding you back from your greatness.
Wow. Now you this it kind of relates to what I wanted to ask next. You talked about God. So I wanted to ask you what role would you say that your spiritual life has played in your career? In everything, in the fact that you can paint, and the fact that you stepped into it now at this age, at this time in this season in your life, and not before. Like, have you thought, why didn't I think about this when I was like 15?
Yeah.
And why later is when I've stepped into it? And what about, do you have some rituals you perform before you paint, like whether it's praying or seeking inspiration? How do you even get inspired for what you do? I think I've asked
So
you
when
some
I speak of,
questions in that
when I speak
context.
of God, when I speak of God, I'm speaking of God from the Christian lens, but
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily a Christian, right? Let me put it that way. It's very important. I explain this. I believe I believe in a supreme being. Um, some people have identified in Christianity as God and Jesus Christ and the
Uh-huh.
Holy Trinity. In Islam is Allah. In every other, there's all these different paths. It's all linking back to the same thing, the same source. I believe in the source. That's what I believe in.
Okay.
Um, but because I was born into a Christian family,
So for
the
that,
way that
you
I
must be
connect with my
in Jesus'
spirituality,
name.
exactly, Jesus Christ. You know what I mean? That's what
Yeah.
I say. But however, there's a lot of things that practice within the religion that I think are very limiting. And I think also part of that religion has been used in different ways that have diminished the certain individuals, for example, Africans, um, has been used to justify several things. But
Hmm.
that was, and I understand, of course, that's not the true essence of the religion and the connection with God. But I can only practice it through that, and I only understand it through that. So I'll make that very clear. meaning that I'm a very spiritual person that speaks directly to God, does specific spiritual has a spiritual connection and relationship that doesn't necessarily I don't go to church in order
Okay.
to be close to God. However, I give God his praises. So yes, God has been important in this whole journey. I have
Mm-hmm.
asked and I've been given.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have seen. I had to go through certain things, and I
Yeah.
understand why. So I'm a very spiritual person, and I'll say in a nutshell, I'm a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not a practicing Christian, but highly spiritual. I think that's the best way to
Okay.
describe me. I have a very personal relationship with God. I understand some of the things I've gone through and needed to be where I am and who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of things I practice heavily is gratitude and humility. Those are the two that are always constant. And it really started. I say the humility started from Giddy Lounge days, and I'm sure you're going to remember this one. Foxy P used to say this catchphrase on her show: "Stay humble, stay humble."
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely.
And it always stuck with me, man. Every time I see P, I'm like, "Yo, P, have fun. I stay humble." So
I don't
I,
even know if he was humble, if he was just
I
shouting.
know, right?
He was not even humble.
Very humble, but amazing, man.
I remember when he bought a house and put up a video and said, "Yes, I bought a house."
Yeah.
I don't know if
Um,
he was humble, but I do remember the
yeah,
catchphrase.
yeah. So it's always stuck with me. So
Yes.
that's one thing I practice. It's always been humble because you never know, um, and also just learning. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so rituals, I would say, one thing I practice a lot is I listen to frequency. So
Okay.
different frequencies to get me in the spirit, in a calm state. So when I come down to the studio, this is a studio. We live upstairs. I come down
Mm-hmm.
to the studio. The first thing I do is I play frequency. Could be any of them. God wave or whichever one. Anyone is fine with me. Most people might not be aware of frequencies, but they kind of sound like spa music in a sense,
Oh,
and it really just changes your mood and centers you.
I just
Um,
listen to Afrobeats.
and then I listen. I do a lot of mindfulness.
Okay.
I sometimes just sit here in the studio with everything off and just sit in my thoughts for about
Mm.
half an hour some mornings and just stare while I drink coffee, just stare into a painting,
Wow.
and then just let my mind just be still and quiet as often as I can, as often as
Right.
so it helps with the creative process too. But whenever I put hours into painting, so a lot of times listen to music, audiobooks, podcasts, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times when I go through waves, so there are gospel waves. So this is one thing that happens I've noticed where I would go like 2 weeks of just gospel music while I create.
Mm.
You know, and so and that's kind of refreshing. It's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a for me it's a discovery every single time. It's about the process. It's about enjoying this thing, whatever this is. Being so
Right.
present in that moment. That's another thing I try to practice is always being as present as possible.
Mm.
It's not easy, man, but
Yeah,
allows you to really enjoy it.
I don't know if this is a gender thing. Like, I don't even know if men generally have it, but I know that when I talk to my female friends, that we feel the same way about it. Is the our mind's inability to calm down. Like, even when
Yeah,
I'm in bed and I'm trying to sleep, my mind is
racing.
everywhere. And
Yeah,
I'm literally telling my mind, please, I just want to rest. No, I can't. I'm thinking about, did I lock the door? Did I turn off the stove? Oh, what day is
yeah,
tomorrow? Does my
yeah.
daughter, is tomorrow the early day? Like, it's all these things I'm thinking about. And did I send that email I was supposed to send? And Eventually, I'll fall asleep. But when I'm taking a shower or in the bathroom, generally, I get very creative ideas. At night, if I'm able to just calm down, yes. But whew, to sit down and for 30 minutes or a few minutes and just, yeah, that would be a luxury at this point. But I think I have to be more intentional about it.
That's right. And you're never going to do half an hour in one shot. You know, I never started half hour. No, I started with 5 minutes. You just sit down, put
Okay.
my time on my watch, and I go 5 minutes. Just sit down here
Yeah.
and don't do anything. And what I mean by don't do anything, my mind is just supposed to be just looking in this room.
Mm-hmm.
Just be in this room. Just be here. But don't think about what you're doing. You're going to be doing the next 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes or what you're going to be doing later today. No, just let your mind wander in this present moment. It's
Yeah.
quite interesting. As you start to do it, you can then do it longer. You start to find yourself go outside and then just stand.
Mm,
Just be looking around. And you know your mind is not thinking about anything. Your mind is just
right.
wandering in this space. And it's a cleanser in a sense. You know,
Yeah. I mean, just imagining it as you're talking about it. Yeah.
that's why people see those people in village, they'll just come out and just look, just
Right.
silently looking outside.
Right.
You're like, what is people looking at? That's that
Yeah.
thing. That's mindfulness,
Yeah.
right? We've been doing this for centuries.
Yeah.
Is part of who we are, also, right? It's just
Mm,
being packaged differently and told to us differently, but a lot of
right.
these are things that we're already doing, right? So
Huh.
yeah, so just little things like that are things that I've kind of implemented into my own creative practice. I don't drink when I paint.
Oh.
Never.
Oh, you don't drink when
I
you know that
don't
you
know
don't drink at
that
all.
cliche thing or wine. No, 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 I don't do that. Okay, wait. No judgmental. No judging anybody. I'm just saying. For me, I don't. I do smoke,
Mm.
but I smoke after to critique the work.
Okay.
Um, it's it's a good tool to use if you're good at it and it's something you want to do. To sit back and smoke up and
Right.
just look at it and go, okay, probably I can correct this one here. What about
Hmm.
this? What about this
I'm like
idea?
picturing you in my mind, just sitting there on a stool. Is it a stool? Do you sit on the stool?
No, it's a couch. It's just a couch
Oh,
right
the
there.
couch.
It's a
Okay, you
very
sit on the
comfortable
couch. You
couch.
face your art and you take your smoke and okay.
Yeah, and just you start to think, because you start to, oh, what color will go well,
Right.
with this painting, or you start to think about ideas for paintings. Like this painting right here, and I rarely paint men. My main subjects are women, so this
Yes,
is a new
I was gonna
collection
ask you about that.
that I've been working on. So with this one, I knew that color was going to be the background.
Mm,
But I didn't know what the shirt was going to be. I know I wanted the pinstripe shirt. I didn't know what it was going to be, and I just saw this color of green. And I just did it. Now, mind you, there was no intention behind this.
right.
Some people say there was. It is the Nigerian flag.
Right. I was looking in my mind I was thinking about super eagles.
Exactly. Right. It looks like,
Yeah.
and that's the great thing about it is, and this is what I would say, one of the biggest things I've noticed along this journey is the power of action,
Hmm.
the power of
Power of
doing.
action.
You
Instead
know,
of just thinking
if you think about it, I didn't,
and
when,
dreaming.
if we go back 10 years, when I painted that first portrait, I knew that I'm going to be here in 10 years. There
Yeah.
was no grand plan that I'm going to be this guy. I'm going to be Benny Bing, the painter, and
Right.
this. No, it was just, I'm going to
You
paint.
call it the magic of doing?
That's right.
I like
The
that.
magic or the power of action, right?
Oh
The
gosh.
magic of doing, the whole act, the
I write that
acting,
down.
acting upon that thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. And I've kind of done that every single time. Every single collection I create is never really been thought about. I think there's only one collection I created that was very intentional, and it was the Motherhood series. I wanted to paint pregnant women, and I
Mm,
wanted to paint that bond and dynamic between mother and child.
right.
To me, that was the next evolution of how do you tell the story of black female essence and elegance and
Mm-hmm.
um, the beauty, right?
Yeah.
Not just in what they look like, but but also in who they are as people. So in individually telling real stories with
Mm-hmm.
Bloom Collection, and but going into this aspect of telling the story of creation, where,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, women are actually gods, right? Because and the real creators, and because they possess the physical
Yeah.
attributes of creating.
Yeah.
Man, we don't do that. We don't. You don't. I'm serious. There is something so marvelous to that a woman can birth another human being
Right.
and create that. That whole aspect is fantastic. I was blown away by it. My kids, the whole 9 months, I was fascinated with my wife, and
Right.
that was the thing about it, is just intrigued by what the female body can do.
Right.
But what was interesting is when I created that collection, I had an intention. I wanted to create that collection,
Mm-hmm.
but everything else I didn't. But with that intention, when I started acting, every single one of us in my inner circle, my clan, we all got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So my best friend, then my wife's best friend,
That's
one of my groomsmen, then my brother, and then me.
what?
All
Wow.
3 to 4 months apart each other.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was able to now sit down
So you're like the
just
fertility
with my
painter.
friends, my inner circle, and really understand and get firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be fascinating when these kids are older and they go, Uncle Benny, or no,
Yeah,
Dad,
like, do you
we
know?
did
Did
that.
I ever tell you the story of how you were conceived? They're like, oh yeah, Uncle Benny painted.
Oh, no, not even. It's like you people just came at the same time. This guy was deciding that he wanted to paint pregnant women. So it's fascinating. But the whole idea is the act of doing, right? When
Yeah,
you act upon something, you have this belief, and really the great thing about it is that, some people, you can call it God, universe, anything, but that act of doing, then the universe opens, doors
yeah,
open, opportunity opens, you get guided because you might not even know where you're going with it, but you eventually get somewhere even better than where you thought you were going to go. So I always tell people, you have an idea, act on it. If it works,
my
it works. If
pastor
it doesn't work,
always says Earth moves first.
yeah,
My pastor always says Earth moves first. He says whatever it moves first on Earth, so you got to act here first. Like you
yeah,
shouldn't just sit down and be like, "Oh God, I want to do this, I want to do this," and you don't actually make a move to do the thing you say you want to do.
that's
So
right.
he's like, yeah, Earth moves first, and then the heaven joins in collaboration with what the Earth is doing.
Yeah,
Um, Now, I want to ask you about your inspiration. Because, yes, I did notice that most of your art is Black women. Are you inspired by real women, like people you know or have seen? Or do you just say, I want to draw a woman? I mean, do you just start, even if you don't know what it is you want to paint? Do you
yeah.
just take a blank canvas and start painting and she ends up being this woman?
So I do create imagined people, and I also paint from real people. So imagined people are more, the face parts of the face and the facial structure are taken from multiple subjects, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the subject, for example, is a mixture of my nephew,
Mm,
Jide, and a couple of other features of young black boys. Young black men, because he's a young man. I wanted to create into this image. The body is actually of somebody else, a completely different subject.
I
So
see.
that would be what constitutes as an imagined person, because it's an attribute of multiple people into one in the
Mhm.
sketching phase. But then I really started painting off real people first, because I started off with celebrities,
Yeah,
because
I
that
feel like I
was.
saw one. Did you do one of Sade?
Yeah, I did Sade.
Yeah.
I did
Yes.
Obama. I
Yes.
did Megan Good. I did Malcolm
Mm.
X.
Yes.
Beyonce.
I saw the Malcolm X.
Um, Martin Luther King. I did a bunch of celebrities.
Right.
But then at that point, there was no meaning to the stories. Right? It
Mm.
was People were only getting the connection because these were celebrities. Well, how many
Right.
celebrities can you paint? After a while, it becomes boring. You're not really. There's no real story, and I really wanted to be able to tell a story. So what I noticed is that there was a lack of black female subjects in contemporary art. And I
Mm.
felt, what more better way than to tell the story of the environment and the women that I grew up looking up to.
Right.
So in Niger, you know this. Most Nigerian women run the household, right?
Yeah.
So you grow up with clans of some very strong, opinionated, just
Aunties.
powerful, women that
Yeah.
won't take rubbish from anybody,
Right.
and at the same time are so vulnerable. Um, and in our house, they used to come and do their hair. All my mom's friends
Mm.
watching, cartoons in the living room, and they're all talking. And I was like, one is a lawyer, one is a judge, one is a doctor, one is this one. They're all educated women too, and they come
Mm-hmm.
there on Saturday before church on Sunday. So
Mm-hmm.
you're also seeing all the attitudes, the way these women are, and the power behind them. This is what I grew up around.
Yeah.
How do I pay homage and tribute to those women?
Mm-hmm.
How do we tell the story of beauty and blackness? Growing up in Nigeria and seeing women with natural hair, in secondary school, girls had to plait their hair, so my palette and what I find very attractive is actually women with natural hair.
Mm.
Nothing against the rest, but because that's what I've seen. That's what is beautiful around us.
Yeah.
How do you, tell that story of that beauty of, natural hair, or even the different styles that women wear, black women wear their hair, and the power in their hair, and the
Mm-hmm.
stories, not and then that's if it fit, it just fit.
Right.
So I ran with it, and it's been a very important story because I've become this instrument that is being used to tell the story. Because I'm not a woman, I'll never be a black woman. I don't know what it means to ever walk a day in a black woman's shoes, but what I can do is be that instrument
Right.
to tell the story, to remind women of their power, of their beauty. When people see my work, there's a lot of reactions, but the two reactions that I see quite often is from little girls seeing the work and just blushing, looking
Oh.
at that, and some, to say I see myself in that. Everyone sees themselves in certain things in different ways, right? That's how
Yeah.
we read into art. We need it to make us feel certain, to evoke certain emotions in us. And some older women I've seen speak about my work even better than me as the artist, because of what
Wow.
they see and the power of what it reminds them about their power, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you realize, wow, the work is what it is. It's not me. People go Benny Bing. No, no, no. I'm just the instrument. The work itself is of these women. So, no, the real women I paint are friends of mine. A lot of women that I'm very inspired by. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did something where I wanted to start creating imagined women. So for the past 2 years, I've been doing that a lot. Is taking features from different friends and different people that I'm inspired by, people I meet, and have these powerful conversations and interesting conversations.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm very
Observant.
not really observant, but I have a very photographic memory. So
Oh.
record a lot of facial features in my head. So when I'm sketching, I kind of take those and add those in. Then I started playing around the whole idea of phenotypes. It's like God's
Mm-hmm.
this magic thing that we see among us is like none of us are one. We're individually created and beautiful, but there's always that other person that kind of looks like us. And that's the thing about it. The doppelganger effect is that we're
Yeah.
all creating these phenotypes. And how do we show the different phenotypes, as much phenotypes we can capture, and show the beauty in those also from the perspective of blackness.
Mm.
But the men, it's a deeper conversation. And this is what I love to talk about. In my work, I create from an organic place.
Oh.
So 2 years ago, my brother was murdered downtown Toronto, in
Oh.
a very senseless act of violence. A young man took his life, and it really
What?
fractured
I'm
our
so
family.
sorry. I did not know that.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't really talked about it a lot. I think some people might have seen or heard about it. Or my sister is quite I won't use the word famous, but she's quite known. So I'm sure, we went online for a bit and people would have heard about it. But I didn't talk about it much. um,
Wow.
because I was dealing with it personally. And I think, when these type of things happen, it's important that we give ourselves grace and we remove ourselves from technology in order to find
Yeah.
peace. And that's what I did. Because 2 days after the funeral, our father, passed away from the hurt of
Oh
his
my
son's passing. So
God.
I lost two, um,
Did you say 2 days?
2 days after the funeral. Yeah.
Oh
So
my.
it was, it was a big factor in the family, and it was a tough time for us. And this was my very first encounter with grief. And you hear about it, you see it on television,
Mm.
it's in plays, it's in all these things, it's in literature, but until you experience grief, you never know what it is. And it is something that I would not wish on anybody, but we will all go through it in one way or another in our journey.
Yeah.
I just pray that as we all experience that we find peace, we find strength to navigate the storm, because it never leaves you. It's always going to be there. So I realized after I came back from Nigeria after burying my father that about something is not right, you know. So something wasn't just right, and I slowly was slipping into depression. And it's important that you recognize these things. You go, oh, okay, something is wrong here. I should
Yeah.
speak to somebody. I should get it taken care of than deny it and try to walk away from it. But I remember my wife asking me, she said, you sure you don't want to speak to anybody? I said, no, 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 I'm going to go downstairs and paint first. let me see let me see, if there's something here that can help me deal with this thing, which was me saying, let me see God's magic.
Right.
Because I
Amen.
came down here and I started painting, and it was the beginning. Again, the act of doing
Right.
without knowing, right? So me just going down there and just doing, I just it got me out of the bed. It got me moving. It got me
Right.
into a routine, right? I created the first painting. It wasn't a man, it was a woman.
Oof.
Wonderful painting. And next thing, something just happened where it said, we are paint men. And
Mm.
I just started. And at first, it was just curiosity. Oh, wow, okay, these guys are coming out really nice. It was a lot of fashion.
Right.
I think he's the third guy, but there was like the first two. The first guy was in a fur coat, the other one was in his suits.
Were they
So
inspired by your dad and brother?
that's right,
Because
without knowing any of this.
of them, yeah,
They
even
were very stylish guys. My father was, always, Gucci suits, Ferragamo, like my dad, that was who he was. And, I didn't know any of this while I was creating it. I was
mm,
just thinking, oh, wow, this is fascinating. But I think like halfway through, something happened. And that's where it goes off and you go, oh, wow, this is the healing,
man.
right?
How
This
long
is
ago did you say this happened?
this is all of last year, 2024. This is
Last year?
yeah. So like from January to like
Oh
July,
my God.
it was, but even I mean the whole year, because you
Mm.
have anniversaries and birthdays trigger moments too. They tell you these things, right? So you
I
prepare yourself for them. But yeah, it was all healing. So this collection is coming out in May.
okay.
I teamed up with another artist from Montreal.
Okay.
I mean, this guy's a visionary in his own right. His name is Marcus Troy, and we're doing a duo show at his gallery in Montreal, May 16th. It's called My Brother's Keeper, and it's in tribute to my brother. And his
Mm.
birthday would have been May 15th. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a
my best friend's birthday.
it's a good,
Wait,
yeah,
birthday.
Taurus, big, bulls, strong head.
Oh man. I'm sorry, Benny. What you said about grief, how you just don't know it until you experience it. Could not have been said better. I lost my mom 3 years ago. It's been
Yeah,
3 years. Next month to be 3 years. And I can't believe it's been 3 years. I'm always making a joke about how we need to have a support group for motherless babies because
Well, we
whew,
need support.
it's a
Um,
lot.
yeah, yeah,
So many things trigger it.
yeah.
Um, I came back from Nigeria once, and I was usually I wash as many dirty clothes as I can, so that I'm not traveling with dirty clothes, right?
That's right.
And this one time, this was my mom was gone by this time. I came back, I had more dirty clothes than usual, and I realized she if she was there, she would have washed some of it. Like she likes doing it. She liked doing that. So she would have said, "Oh, let me wash them." And I'm standing by the laundry. I'm standing by the washer, and I'm just crying, putting my clothes in there,
Mm,
and my voice is getting shaky. I did not plan for this. I'm standing by the washer and just having a moment because I'm like, I wouldn't have had this many. Obviously, it wasn't about the clothes, right?
yeah,
It was just that she wasn't there.
he wasn't there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
You talking about your dad and brother back to back. That was a lot.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That was a moment. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Don't be sorry. This is human. That's the thing about it, you know.
Yeah.
So that was one of the interesting things that happened after it was back to back. There was a third one, but
Oh.
I never like to talk about the third one because then it just seems too much at that period of time. One of our cousins, the younger cousins, he
Mm.
also died in that period of time.
Wow.
So it was like the three, they come in threes. Someone said that to me.
Right.
And the person's like, you need to seek help. And I was like, I know. And he's like, no, I'm not joking. And I was
Mm.
like, okay, where do I start? He says, start to find some books on grief.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked up Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, an
Okay.
amazing doctor. She passed. This is actually the last book that she wrote
Okay.
before she passed away. She wrote a book on death and dying, and this book was called On Grief and Grieving.
Mm-hmm.
And Dead and Dying, I think, sold as a bestseller,
Oh wow.
highly spoken about. So I was like, oh, this should be a good one, and fascinating book. This is where I learned that you're going to experience depression, so you need to prepare yourself for it.
Yeah.
Also, they talked about different ways people grieve and understanding that not everyone grieves the same way, and how it manifests itself. If it's not taken care of, it will manifest itself years later.
Mm-hmm.
And why it's important to um, find ways to heal and manage your grief. So one of the ways they talked about is what we see in Nigeria, where it's two of the opposite, where some tribes will say, "Don't cry. You have to be
Mm.
strong. Be
Right.
strong. Why are you
Right.
crying?" So like at my father's funeral in Nigeria, one guy came to me. I didn't know who this guy was. Some guy in a church, pastor, senior pastor. Never met him in my life. Don't know him from nowhere. Came to me and said, "Stop crying. Father will not want you to cry." I turned around and said, "Listen, sorry, I don't know who you are, but please step away from me." Like, and it reminded me that just culturally, there are
Right.
certain ways that certain things are viewed, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy.
No, I don't think it's healthy at all because how don't you cry when you just lost a whole dad? What do you
Yeah,
mean don't cry? And I know they would say that especially to men. I
man,
think if
yes.
women are rolling on the floor, it's Levi is she's a woman, but a man, no, your heart must be strong. Igbo
Yeah,
people will say judo bigaka, like hold your heart.
yeah.
Um, you're not allowed to show emotions, especially as a man.
Yeah. So, there are people that also certain cultures that hire professional criers at the funerals. They write about that, right?
Yeah, I've heard about
It's a
that.
thing, right? So we all grieve differently. So the whole idea of the book is, well, how to find a healthy way to deal with your grief and manage your grief. Um,
I'm still laughing about the professional criers because
oh yeah,
is
it's
it that there aren't enough people to? Because I mean, if the person who passed away was just not a nice person and nobody is is motivated to actually cry for this person, then I see the need for professional cryers.
Uh,
Otherwise, are
there's
people
a
not sad
feeling,
enough to cry?
some transitions, funerals, celebration of lives are experiences for people, right? There's
Hmm.
things that they do. But yeah, it's so it was interesting to kind of read and get that knowledge and understand. Yeah, I'm not going to, certain things like that. I'm not going to put up with that. Like with
Yeah.
all due respect to you, I respect you as a man or whoever you are. But no, 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 please step back. You know,
Hmm.
I'm a grown man too. You're not going to tell another grown man how I should be dealing with this.
I
Uh,
know.
at his
I
father's
know.
funeral,
Which
we've
we
never met
understand.
before. It takes a lot of there's an audacity to it.
And then how does he know what your dad would want? He said your dad would do what? How did he tell you?
you know. Uh,
He
anyway,
come to you and say, I would not want Benny crying at my funeral.
like I told this story, I think, to my sister or somebody, and she's like,
Uh-huh.
"Really?" I was like, "She's like, ah, daddy will probably do the guy. Shut up there."
Exactly. Did I ask you? Did I tell you?
That's a good question. Yeah. Talking about that healing is
Yes.
what it manifests itself in these images of these men. I kind of capture a teen boy, young men, older men, trying to kind of tell that story of vulnerability um,
Hmm.
and the essence of our masculinity, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How also we can be vulnerable and how we hurt as much and we need to heal too, and
Yeah.
how we my brother's situation was an unfortunate ego situation, was what, two egos that just clashed, and one had a weapon, which, oh, of course, typical story, it happens. So I'm able to take that and organically, to create, tell my story.
Hmm.
This is which happened from a life experience, right? And we see people do this all the time. So this is nothing new, where people have taken from their grief and have used it to
Right.
produce beautiful works
Yeah.
of literature, of music, of film and television, and of art. So the whole thing, comes down to stories. How do we tell our stories with pride and self-regard? That is it. That's my
Mm.
focus, and that's what my work will always be. Yeah.
I just read Chimamanda's book, Dream Count, that just came out earlier this month. And I
Okay.
think it was in the author's note I was reading it because the book is about four women, different women
Mm,
whose lives are intertwined. But I think it was in the author's note that she said she was just writing about women, but in the end, she realized she was writing about
mm,
relationship with her mom. She lost her own parents too, and it was back to back. I think it was her dad first, and then her mom a few months down the line.
mm.
So she was grieving,
Yeah.
and even if she didn't know it when she wrote the book, but so yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yes, when I read the whole author's note, I found myself crying. Once I read or hear about death, I just it just takes me right back. I'm like, somebody gifted me a book about grieving. I have not touched that book, man, because I am afraid of what will happen when I read the book. I'm like, I'm not ready yet. So it's somewhere.
And that's the beautiful thing is, when you're ready, it will happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when all this was happening, there was one thing I prayed to God. I said, God, remove the spirit of vengeance from my
Mm,
and give me strength. Those are I think the only two things I asked for,
yeah.
because I was just like, I was in complete shock, right? But I
Yeah.
knew one thing that I should remove from my heart is the vengeance aspect, right? Forgiveness I will learn, but remove that vengeance part and give me
Right.
strength to navigate. That's it. Because I will kill that individual. I would have, if I was in the wrong mindset.
Right.
My brother and I were like this, from Nige. We were 18 months apart. oldest brother is 5 years, 6 years senior. So there's a distance between the first and
Right.
two of us, and then the one after me is the distance too. So it's always like
See,
it was two of us,
two knuckleheads.
two knuckleheads, like even when we came to Canada, two of us, apartment, two of us, so it was
Right.
always like you see Toby, you see me, you see
Yeah.
me, where's Toby? Toby's there over there, and so there was that aspect of we used to talk about Nigeria. If person touch my brother, I go kill him, say
Mm.
those kind of things, but when the
Yes.
time comes, there are some people that do become that. They
Hmm.
completely lose their reality and it manifests in vengeance and they
Right.
will go. You see it, whether it's someone because your family member, anybody, it's that you get that feeling. So what you pray for is you pray for removing that spirit and you pray for
Yes.
strength to be able to
Yes.
navigate it. And I now understand forgiveness, truly what forgiveness is. It's a
That's a
powerful tool.
lot to forgive.
Oh man, it's a lot. I've
That's
forgiven
a
him.
lot.
You
Yeah,
know,
because it's
the,
not like, oh, you stole my car. That's a lot. But I'm so happy that you have and that you're at that place.
yeah, he was caught.
Good.
He's been charged. He's going to be tried, and the only thing I could do is forgive. And I
Mm.
understand it deeper now. Forgiveness is a very individual journey. Most people
Yeah.
never understand it till they're on that journey themselves.
Yeah.
But there is a power in it, and that's been that journey in our family. It's yeah, and it could be the fact that because we are Christians, we also
Hmm.
are very forgiving.
Hmm.
But I think it's individually, Christian, no Christian, you will be moved that same way once you truly understand it.
Mm.
Yeah, you know.
Okay.
Hopefully, this is the redemption for the young man. But it, in the grand scheme of things, it's manifest into something beautiful. Been able to tell a wonderful story,
Right.
which will be released in May, so in a couple of months.
My
So
brother's
this
keeper.
is technically the first place. This is an exclusive. This is the first place that it has really been discussed. I've really talked about it publicly, so I'm very happy about that. But
That's
yeah,
awesome. I did congratulations, Benny.
thank you, thank you.
And may Toby's soul and your dad's soul continue to rest in peace.
Amen.
Yeah. We will shift away from death and dying.
Grief, grief, grief.
From grief. Okay, we'll shift away from grief. Uh we talked about earlier on in the conversation when we were talking about uh the whole being Nigeria and when you were in Nigeria you said what do you think about I know that when I was growing up that art was not encouraged as
Hmm.
a career in Nigerian homes. It was, doctor, you have to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer. I grew up with two medical doctors. So you can imagine the pressure. I don't know how and why I'm on the creative side because I was told from as little as I was that you will be a medical doctor. It's in your blood. Your father is a medical doctor, your mother is that was my only career option. They didn't even say you could be a lawyer. No, you're going to be a medical doctor. And I tried and failed woefully at it. But what do you think about where we are now in 2025 and uh people especially like us like Nigerians or Africans or immigrants growing up in homes, what would you say to the parents whose children are showing those signs of creativity? Like my daughter loves painting. By the way, she had this little blank canvas yesterday and she painted the whole background purple. And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Guess why I did that?" So I'm trying to think maybe there's a purple person character she likes, and I kept guessing. She's like, "No." I said, "Well, what is it?" She's like, "It's for Benny." I was like, "Oh."
Ah,
She's because I
amazing.
told her
Look at
that
that.
Benny is an artist and I'll be talking with Benny. She says, "It's for Benny." I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll be sure to tell him." You,
Oh man, that is amazing.
yeah,
My
yeah,
biggest advice to parents with creative kids or the kids that are expressing their creativity is to
uh-huh.
nurture it. That's our job. And I think we do some things very good in Nigerian culture and some things we fail miserably at. Right, and I think it's generational. It's not a Nigerian thing or a tribal thing. It's a
Hmm.
generational thing. And I think as a new generation, our parents, the boomers, are a certain type of Nigerians
Mm-hmm.
that we know their children who are technically like the Xers
Mm-hmm.
are and millennials. We end up being very different people.
Right.
And now we're looking at Gen Z and we're like, look at these Gen Z kids. And it's like, no, but actually, the funny thing is they're actually way better than us, right? They might
I
still
think
carry
they're
some of the
crazy.
uh, but they're talking about things that we should be the real conversations we should be having about
Mm-hmm.
people's feelings, how we talk to, and how the certain type of programming we instill in children. We can still
Mm-hmm.
you can do respect and values and morals. All those things are standards for sure. It's never going to leave us. We are going to always want those in our children and teach our children that. But you know, certain ways we talk, certain language we use,
Mm-hmm.
we can change those things. Certain
Right.
certain belief systems that we have, that your child cannot be successful, your child does not do XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
No, market woman no go school.
Right.
She's successful in some way. Some of them have built their life, not but and some of them are still struggling. But you can see the hustle that is there. All they are lacking is opportunity
Yeah.
to really do it. And you go into there's a failure of government, a failure of whatever. But there's a hustle there. That
Mm-hmm.
some of those market women are putting their children through school.
Yeah.
That in hopes that that child now with education they will be something better, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's important for us to remember when and because we work hard and because we understand suffer in a sense. We don't want we live in a fear of we don't want you to suffer. So you need to take this route. Well, one thing that we're very good at as not just Nigerians, but Africans in general, are creative people. We've always
Very
been
much
creative.
so.
We've always been creative. We've been so creative where the people have come from outside and stolen our stuff and take it outside to show how creative we are and don't want to give it back to us. Do you understand how creative that is?
They're
If you were
keeping it
not creative, they are giving you back your thing. Now it's rubbish. Yeah, take it back. But no, we're so creative. Please let us hold it for you because
they're
you
keeping
know
it for us.
we need to show it to the world how creative you
Right.
people.
Right.
But then we're saying, we're not really creative, so you can hold it. See, but now we're fighting back, saying, no, no, no. We are the authors of our story. We
Mm-hmm.
are the guardians of our history. Give it back to us. We will tell our own story. And you're going to see a lot of our artifacts slowly start being returned in the next 10, 20 years. It's slow, but it's going to move. It started already. There's a lot of prominent, art patrons in Nigeria that are fighting that. There is a shift, but that shift really started from music.
Mm.
With the emergence of Afrobeat and its emergence on the global stage, and how it has swept through hearts and captivated people really on the same side as the same level as reggae, what reggae did in the 70s
Yeah.
and 80s. I don't even think reggaeton even went as far as where Afrobeat is right now.
Right. Because now there are more tools to make the music. Like there was no Spotify in the 70s, there was no what you call it, when there was no YouTube. There's no TikTok and Instagram and reels and all this kind of things. So now there, before, if I was driving and I came across another driver in their car and they were blasting like Nigerian music, I would think, oh, my fellow Nigerian. Now it doesn't mean it's my fellow Nigerian
That's right.
anymore.
Anybody,
You can pull up his one or Igbo person in the car. You're like, oh, okay.
you know,
You go to stores, you go to big stores, like you go to a Macy's or you go to a Best Buy, and the music playing there is Nigerian music. I went to Jamaica, and when we took the bus taking us from the airport to the hotel, it was Nigerian music playing in there. And it's not like we said, can you play Nigerian music? That's just what was playing.
that's
And
right.
when we went to Mexico, same thing. And I was like, this is amazing.
Same thing, right?
Yeah,
Like you're right. The other day I saw someone blasting "Bondu" by Bondu by Burna Boy, and as I pull up to the car, I was expecting
right,
black person actually, and I saw older white guy, salt and pepper hair. I was like, wow, bro. My wife was like, whoa, that's amazing, you Burna
right.
Boy. You know what I mean? Like that guy's blasting, but it's that's the power of music.
You want to ask him, do you understand what this song is saying?
You tell
But
you
then
you
again,
you rap the whole thing for you, so you
yeah,
sing the whole
I'm
thing for you.
thinking then again when I was listening to Shabba Ranks and like I didn't know what they were saying. It just sounded good.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So I think because of the success, the global success
Yeah.
of Afrobeat specifically,
Hmm.
you have seen the acceptance with slow acceptance that, oh yeah, you can be a musician. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
There's that acceptance now where it's like, oh, you do if a kid
Hmm.
is going to school, while he's going to school, he's telling his parents, I'm recording, I really want to be an artist. The parents will be like, my friend, I finished that school, but we'll support you. There's now there's a little bit of, yeah, we still support you,
Hmm.
but they still are fearful. There's the hesitance too. But I think there's a shift. You're seeing it with the arts. The art industry has really shifted in a very positive direction. External money is coming in also.
Hmm.
The art industry in Nigeria has really elevated. I mean, really on the continent too, right? There are
Yes.
major players in Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, South Africa, Kenya, some really amazing galleries and institutions that are really, because that's really what it is, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So there's a shift. There's a shift,
I
but
agree.
individually for parents, what I would say is nurture it.
Right.
Nurture it. There's nothing much more beautiful than seeing your child become the best that they can be, because you never know what it is. I used to follow my mom see to markets, when
Mm.
she's doing the buying food and stuff like that, and I'll be in the kitchen. Now, I'm the chef in our home. You know,
Nice.
I'm very much interested in food. When I travel, it's really about food and culture. Those are things that happened internally in your house.
Hmm.
My taste of music is based on my father was a is a big jazz guy, right? So I'm a big jazz guy, but he was also at the same time, a big disco and boogie music, from the
Mm.
'70s, and you learn a lot of these artists that in Nigeria that you listen to. Some other people don't even know them, but some other people grew up with them. And you go, okay,
Hmm.
So there is that, but it's more and more now. We're seeing it more. I think we're in a very interesting time, and it's really good. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. We're different types of parents than our
Yeah.
parents were. A lot of us are more intentional, and we're trying to do the right thing. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm
I
I'm
agree.
positive that we will see something fruitful come out for sure.
Yes, so yes, we have to. So, 100 years from now, or even let me say, when you're long gone, you've gone to meet your ancestors, what do you want people to say about Benny Bing's art?
The interesting there's an answer to that question, but the reality is that they will say whatever they want to say.
Yeah, that's true. Two
You know,
things
it,
are true.
100 years from now, someone is going to see my art and is going to have a deep interpretation of what I was trying to convey. That even right now, I can't convey that. What
Mm,
happened, right? But what would I love is the same message. It's very simple.
mm,
It's the story of identity, of self-regard, and pride in who we are. That's all that I really want anybody to take back from my work, to look at yourself and say, I am beautiful inside,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And beauty is not based on anybody's standard. Everything in this world is beautiful, right?
Yes.
Even things that are ugly. That's what people don't understand.
Monkey
Is
no
that
fine, but in mama like 'em.
no, but no, beauty is subjective. Some
Yes, it
people
is.
find the sunset
So it's in
beautiful,
the eyes
some
of the
people don't.
beholder, right?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, and apart from that, all of this is light.
Yeah.
So, and it's an illusion. Do you really know what you're seeing is true or false? So, let's not go that deep. Sorry, but what I'm trying to say is everything's beautiful,
Hmm.
and there's beauty inside out, and we need to remember that as people. And we need to constantly remind ourselves. You need to say to yourself every day in the mirror, because I do when I'm brushing my teeth. I look at myself and I say, "I am black. I'm beautiful. I'm proud. I'm able.
Mm,
I can do it." you speak your own existence into
Yeah.
life, right? And when
What's
you
your
when you when
affirmation?
you when you start to really say that, and it starts
Mhm.
to you start to act that way. And there's no better way than to live your own existence happy, free, and just proud of everything that you are, right? Yeah.
What would you say is the number one way that art has changed your life?
Number one.
Or
My
you
whole
can give
life has
more than
changed.
two.
Haven't you seen my life? um. Oh man, the number one way it changed me as a person. I
Okay.
think that's the number one thing in my internal change. It was the catalyst that woke me up,
Mm.
my greatness, and to the possibilities of the things I can do. Um,
Mm.
that now I just if something doesn't work out, I go, okay, that's not my own. And I just keep going.
Right.
There's something about it where it's like you don't feel that anymore. Where rejection don't mean nothing to me,
Mm.
and that's I don't know. It's just because after you've gone through so much, you start to realize what you're capable of, and that some of those things you rejected from are actually protection from God. That you actually don't need to go through those things. We forget about that stuff. Like, oh, I didn't get it. I'm mad. Probably that was actually protection.
Right. Right.
We tend to forget that, right? So that's I'll say my internal change as a person, as a human being. Like my whole approach to life changed from that moment. Really, 10 years
Mhm.
ago, right? From that moment, um, really thinking about how am I as an individual, as a human being, how can I be a better person? Forgive
That's
everybody I've ever done anything with. Any of my enemies I saw, I went up to them. I was like, bro, listen, I'm sorry for everything. I've held malice against you for years, and I'm letting it go. I'm just letting you know.
look at growth.
And but that comes with
Yeah.
time. Everyone goes through that journey. So, but I think that's what that moment, that art involved, introduced into my life, and
Hmm.
the beginning of that, because it's always been in my life, but really, I'll say like the spark of where this started now.
Right.
I speak at schools.
Mm.
I do fireside chats and keynote speeches at banks and across the country. Kids are learning about me during Black History Month in Canada.
Wow.
You know, yeah,
That is amazing,
that is,
Benny.
you can get art, you can be an artist, but you might not be able to accomplish all those things,
Hmm.
right? So there's a big internal change that manifested outside, and this is what we're now seeing through these works and through the success of my career.
Mm. Well, before I let you go, Benny, where can people find your art? People who want to, want to see what your art is about, or maybe purchase something. Where can they find you, or even connect with you
And
online?
I'm on Instagram at Benny Bing, BENNYBING. You can also visit my website, bennybing.com. Has my whole collection, all the projects I've worked on. If you're looking to acquire an original painting, reach out to the team, and we can definitely help you with that. If you're interested in starting your own art collection, and an original might not be something that you can't acquire, I will always advise starting with a print, a limited edition print from any artist, whether it's myself or an artist that you love.
Hmm.
Start with a print. Start collecting limited edition prints, and build your own collection.
Hmm.
Art, your taste says a lot about you. When people come into your homes or your office, they want the art on the wall speaks a lot about who you are. It tells a
Hmm.
story. It gives people a little piece of who you are. And sometimes you might see similarities between you and other people. So collect art, and if you can, support local art wherever you are. Listen to this from. Support the local artists around you. They need it. Your support greatly helps them become better in what they do. Support the arts. That's all I can say.
Thank you, Benny. This has been such an amazing conversation.
Yes, it
Thank you
has.
for your time. I appreciate it. I shared tears that I was not planning on Unshared. This might be my first time crying on the internet. So I think I've just stepped into a new dispensation. I don't know how many more of these will happen, but
But what's interesting and beautiful about this is that I've known you for years now. Was
yeah.
your producer for over 2 years, 2 3 years, right? With your radio show back then.
Yes.
You have done so much, and you
Oh,
continue to do so much, and I'm so proud of you. And
thank
but I
you.
must say, even in that period of time when I was your producer, I've never seen you cry. I've never.
Because I'm always the bado. Like, no, I'm a tough girl, you know?
So I'm moved by it. But this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, parents. It's always,
Thank
it's always a blast chatting with you.
I know it's always why are you all the way in Canada? Well, I guess we'll have to do with phone calls. But yes, and I've never been to Canada. I should hurry up and come now. This one that
So you're
I
welcome
don't
anytime.
want
Yeah.
US and Canada to go into war and they'll say our passports are banned. So
You see, we're not going to do the same thing that you're doing to us. You can come. We're not going to treat you any kind of way. But if I come now, they feel detain me for for border and say,
I'm
what
telling
what
you.
is this Nigerian doing with a Canadian passport? It's like it lock you up. So
Listen,
anyway.
anything is possible in this day and time. We don't know. We when we wake up in the morning is when we know what kind of casala we're going to deal with today. So keep us in your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, but it's this too shall pass.
In 3 years and how many
But
wait,
it's not.
oh,
It's
3 years and 10 months more, this too shall pass.
yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you anyway, Benny. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you on how I got here.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. An amazing, amazing journey. Such an inspiration. So
Thank you.
for all the young people, especially who are listening and thinking that you need to have something else apart from art, because that's how our generation was raised. You can want to sing and want to write, and that's what for the longest time I never looked at my writing as a career path. I never looked at anything I was good at as a career path because I was supposed to be my high school what's that book they give you yearbook. My high school yearbook says I'm going to be an OBGYN. I was going to be a gynecologist.
Okay.
Yes, because that's what my parents said. I was going to be a doctor. Yeah, because both of my parents are medical doctors. My dad's older brother is a surgeon. So they're like, yeah, it's in your blood. They said it
Hmm.
wasn't in my blood. It's not in my blood.
Well,
So
probably in another lifetime. In an alternate reality,
maybe,
Vera is a very successful
maybe, because
lady.
in this one, when I went to nursing school, I failed out. When I did the clinicals in one of my nursing classes, I almost threw up. When
Mm,
they said I had to give this woman a bed bath, I was like, so yeah. But I'm learning. I'm still actively learning that this thing that I'm good at is my thing, and I should not have to look for another thing.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. It takes some learning, unlearning, and relearning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, Benny.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.